Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the last episode of Youth Cabinet here at Regent Park. My name is Susan Jama, and I will be hosting tonight's show. Tonight, we have a special guest here in our studio, and later on, we will watch an interview clip together that I had the chance to meet a museum educator at the Royal Ontario Museum. But first, I would really would like to say that it is really exciting to be here at Regent Park, as I am representing as well as other members of the Youth Cabinet here. This year, the Royal Ontario Museum Youth Cabinet has partnered with the Regent Park Focus Youth Media Arts Center to create a television series based on social justice issues, problems that we have identified as members of the Youth Cabinet, such as lack of better cultural representation at the museum display or the race composition in different countries that we have seen in the exhibitions. Tonight as well, I would like to say that without Kaiwa Win, this Youth Cabinet would not have been possible, as it would not have been here where it is today. The Kaiwa Win Indigenous Memorial, as well as the Indigenous Advisory Council youth member, has provided us a for youth by youth philosophy that helps young adults grow their leadership skills, as well as connect better with their communities and give them a platform to tell their stories and to connect better with the world. Tonight, though, we will be focusing on ancient Egypt, and for this episode, our guest is a specialist of ancient Egypt. Please help me welcome Gail Gibson. Gail?
Hi there.
Hi, so nice to meet you. First of all, what is an Egyptologist?
An Egyptologist is a slightly crazy person who loves ancient Egypt so much that they study it and learn the language, and it's such a lovely culture. Once they've got a hold of you, you stay forever.
That's true. Like when I was a teen, a very young teen, in fact, when I first came to Canada, ancient Egypt was one of the countries that we had to create a project about. And my love for ancient Egypt kind of continued on to high school. And for one of my arts projects, I actually created an Egyptian god, which is right here.
Oh, he's darling.
Do you know who? I'm pretty
yes,
sure you know who
this is the god Ra, the sun. And without him, nothing happens.
Nothing happens. Well, I created my Ra, so.
Well, you gave him a body to live in, and that's what statues were to the ancient Egyptians. They didn't worship the statue. They thought that the god could come and visit, just the way we visit with a friend through our phones or through a Skype.
Oh.
Pretty cool. So you made Skype for the gods.
Oh, I guess I did. Did you ever address the race representation in the exhibitions whenever you were giving tours or lectures?
Yeah, very often, especially if people ask. And I think what people should do is just maybe look at the pictures the Egyptians drew of themselves, because they drew a zillion pictures of themselves, and they painted them and they colored them. And you can see, okay, that's what they thought they looked like. Now, the ancient Egyptians thought they looked different from the Syrians. They thought they looked different from the Libyans, whom they made with brown hair and pale skin. They also thought they looked different from the Nubians, whom they painted much darker than themselves.
The museum itself, how does it address race representation, not just like in ancient Egypt now, but other cultures that they do present to the public?
Well, one thing that has really changed over the last 50 years, and even the last 20 years, I think, is that there's a lot more community involvement in the museum. So now it's not a question of, an Irish person like me deciding what the ancient Hungarians were doing. We tend to talk to the Hungarians about that. The Chinese control the Chinese exhibits to a large extent. We have Chinese curators, we have Japanese curators. We try to have people who have real experience with those cultures. We have advisory committees from the cultures. And I think that's really important, because sometimes there is an issue that when you're an outsider, you don't even see it. And then everybody who's inside the culture says, oh, you can't do that. We don't like that thing, or that word really bothers us. Could you use a different word? And it's very important to talk to the communities about all that. And the museum has got better and better and better over the years. And I'm sure many communities must think they're still not good enough. And I think even the museum thinks that, but they're really trying, and they are getting better and better at it. So That's been a big improvement
Yeah.
over my lifetime.
Obviously, as an Egyptologist, you must have worked closely with the collection itself.
Yes,
Now,
that's what I do all the time.
So now in terms of like, say for example, acquiring a piece from Egypt, how would that process go? Like internationally, I'm sure there's like lots of logistics to work with.
There is, and in fact, from Egypt, you can't acquire anything.
Oh.
The Egyptian government has had a law for many, many years now, most of my life, that if you were an Egyptologist and you dug up Queen Nefertiti and all her stuff,
Yeah.
you could not bring back one potsherd to Canada.
Really? Why is
It
that?
all stays in Egypt. It's Egyptian, it should be there.
Oh.
And nowadays, everything stays there. And sometimes you can borrow things, but if our museum wanted to borrow the stuff you dug up from Nefertiti, we would have to pay a very, very large rent to the Egyptian government. We'd have to pay insurance to make sure it's safe. So this is why you don't see a lot of big shows of Egyptian stuff unless it's stuff that's been out for a long time. The new laws don't apply to things that were dug up 100 years ago, 150 years ago, or things that were bought and sold 150 years ago.
Yeah.
Just because I think the Egyptian government had to say, okay, from this point on, no more of it.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty hard to go back and say your great-grandfather bought this 150 years ago and we want it back. They don't have the time for that.
Oh, so then now speaking of that, like, so how was the current ancient Egypt collection, how was that acquired then?
An awful lot of it was acquired by our first founder, a really interesting man named Charles Corelli. And Corelli went to Egypt as an assistant to a famous archaeologist at the time. And while he was there, it was legal in those days to take half of what you excavated.
Oh.
And very often rich people would fund the excavations and they got to take half of it home.
Oh.
And even rich people have limits to the size of their houses. Yeah. So very often, very nice rich people like Sir Walter Mond would say to Corelli, now you've got a brand new museum in Toronto. Here's some stuff.
Oh.
And so a lot of our material was dug up by Corelli, bought by Corelli, or given to him by different people he worked with at the time. And that's really lovely.
Oh, wow. Well, Gail, it was really nice meeting
so
you
much
today. It was awesome. Thank you.
Thanks again for letting me come by.
No problem. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.